What's up, everyone? How's it going? Welcome back to the YouTube channel. If you're new here, my name is Bailey Canning. I'm an independent full stack marketing strategist, and on today's video, we are going to be taking a deep dive case study into, quite honestly, one of my favorite websites that I've ever built for one of the favorite brands that I've had the pleasure to work with. The company today that we're going to be looking at is called Alpine to the Max, and they are a company that provides guided rock, ice, and alpine climbing throughout the Boulder, Colorado, Denver metro area, and even beyond that in some places out west here in the United States. So this was a really fun project because, as you'll get to see as we take a look at the website, lots of really cool areas to have fun with, considering the brand of it's a very high octane, high nature mountaineering type sport. And it was just a lot of fun to work directly with the clients. And I really do think that the website came out absolutely fantastic, both in terms of the color scheme but also, as you can see here, just the imagery and the photography, and especially the videography that we eventually added to the website. Let me give you a quick background before we take a look at the strategy, design, and then ultimately the development phase. So this client, we actually met at a networking event through the Boulder Chamber of Commerce when I was living in Boulder, Colorado. And we literally sat down right next to each other at a networking event, introduced ourselves, and then it just seemed that we kind of just hit it off, I guess you could say. So that was very cool. And then eventually we aligned on working together on, at first, what was a website revamp along with some branding components because they were a little unsure. They needed a little bit more clarity on their brand. And then also, over time, we then did a phase 2 website build to add on more pages and features that I will be detailing in this case study shortly. And then, of course, after that, we also did work on a marketing campaign in an ongoing basis that primarily focused around SEO. That was at a time when SEO was more of a viable strategy. So this was about 2 to 3 years ago we were working together. We haven't worked together for the past year or so. But during the time, SEO was much more viable as today. I am not very bullish at SEO at all. And then we were also doing a lot of work in terms of content production and paid advertising campaigns on both Google and Meta. The main challenges they were facing as a brand, there were 2 primary challenges. Number one, for context, the client had built up a very strong following on Instagram, both in terms of the total number of followers as well as how engaged they were. And that was great, obviously, as the main marketing channel to get eyeballs and grow the awareness of the brand online. They, unfortunately, were just dealing with a very basic, generic, templated Squarespace website. Didn't look anything special, and quite honestly, it looked exactly like all their competitors. That was obviously no good. So as part of that, I knew we were going to need to create a very custom, bespoke type website in Webflow. No other platform would have been better to build the type of website we ended up building here. And then also the main problem from a more sales lead gen perspective was the fact that at the time, they were essentially reliant on people to fill out the general contact form to tell them what type of climb they were looking to do. So it was on the consumer in this case to explain what type of climb they wanted to do, in what area they wanted to do it, what venue. And then ultimately from there, the client, the one I worked with, the owner of the company, would need to coordinate with the prospective clients over either a phone call or an email to actually get the climb booked. So there was a lot of friction in the sales process, and to solve that, we ultimately ended up adding an online booking widget. So this way people could select the exact day and time they want to go on a guided mountaineering type climb. And then from there, they could even pay online and have everything booked out. And there was also a lot of admin type stuff in terms of waivers that would get handled with this online booking system. So this dramatically reduced the friction in the sales process and ultimately led the client to have their best year to date last time I talked to them about this. So that is what we're going to be talking about today. All right, so let's get right into it, taking a look first at the strategy phase, of course. So this was the initial strategy workshop presentation that I put together. Always, in my opinion, you have to start with a strategy phase of the website. Anyone who's telling you we can just go right into design just doesn't know what they're doing, quite frankly, and is going to be setting you up for failure. So that's why it's always important. The strategy phase takes about 2 weeks, but this is where we do competitive research. It's where we formulate a strong business and marketing strategy behind the website to ensure that we don't just design something that looks good, but ultimately it's going to be able to generate leads, close sales, and actually deliver a return on the company's investment. Because quite honestly, the website should far outpace how much money and revenue it's able to generate compared to the initial investment cost. So that's the rationale here. Let's get into it. This is the cover slide. As you can see here, I then explained to the client where exactly we were. So basically, the point of this workshop presentation, this was in a bit of an abbreviated presentation in terms of the strategy phase. Sometimes I go a bit more in depth. Sometimes it's more of like a working workshop, so to speak, because in this case, they did have the full budget needed. We determined that it was best used towards more design and development assets and resources. So basically, I told him here that I wanted to basically get to understand his vision and be able to ensure that I could take that vision and make sure that in the website and the future marketing work we would be doing, that would result in an expression and experience that would ultimately resonate with his goals, his vision, and ultimately also resonate with the types of clients we're looking to work with. So then I also have an agenda here. We get into the brand discovery right away. I always have to introduce myself on these calls, but I don't like to talk about myself, quite frankly. So this is the best way I figured it out over the years, just to show what companies I've worked for, what brands I've worked for, and then I can get right into the actual presentation. I also start by telling them exactly where we are in the process. So basically, this is the strategy workshop on the left-hand side. Then after this, we move into design and copy. Then it's development and all that fun stuff. So then we go into an overview about the client here. In this case, this was particularly relevant because I was working with the owner of the company, and he had essentially been a mountain guide, so guiding people for another company doing rock, ice, and alpine climbing. But now he was starting his own company. I believe he was about a year or so in. He had found initial success, but now it was time to get to the next level. And he did have visions of ultimately being able to hire out a team. So that's why it was important for me to learn this background on him and then ultimately where he wanted to go. We then dive a bit more into the company and what exactly all the services entails. So as you can see, this is very like discussion oriented. When it comes to these presentations, I always worry that like I never want to be perceived, unless it's like actually needed, to be talking at the client and be trying to ram down information. That's just not my style. Rather, I'm just trying to get to know them. We then do this onlyness statement, which we had to work through a bit. Basically, this is how we can start to formulate a unique positioning strategy for the website and all future marketing efforts. And I give him this example. Then we talk about who the target audience is. The key services were going to be rock, ice, and alpine climbing. And then within that, there were two avatars within each of those. Basically people who are beginners, so just looking to get started, as well as more advanced people who are looking to take their climbing skills to the next level. Now, if you're from the Colorado or even just out western region of the United States, you probably understand that the people interested in this are very interested. They are like diehard. So there's a lot of people where like this is their whole life, quite frankly, and they are very comfortable investing thousands of dollars to hire a professional guide who can help them climb safer, faster, more technically efficient, all that type of stuff. I've actually never gone on a rock, ice, or alpine climb, although I did tell the client I would be, so I really need to make myself good on that coming up. So back to the topic at hand. We then talk about the offering. This was just getting more clarity on what exactly it would involve in terms of the entire process and the benefits and what an actual day out climbing looks like. This was especially important for me because, like I said, I don't have any experience rock or ice climbing or alpine climbing, but actually that was not a deal breaker for the clients. In fact, he liked that about me. He later on told me because basically he thought that would give me a more unique, fresh perspective. So I guess there's something to be said about that for sure. Then we talk about communication objectives. I really just wanted to understand what the client wanted to get across here. Then I just make sure we're not missing any outside important factors. So seasonality, how does that impact the business? Then we get into the website strategy portion. So I start by just reminding the client, here's the sitemap we've agreed about. So it was a 5-page website, but then of course, as you'll see, there are many other pages now because we did work on a phase 2 build. Then we get into the project goals here, so just aligning on what that looks like. Then I talk about what type of content we are going to have. Always important early on to talk to the clients about what content we are going to need to have on the site, because this is honestly the thing that's going to be probably most resource intensive for them to develop if needed. So I always like to get this early on in the process, front and center. This way they have their marching orders coming out of this initial strategy workshop meeting in terms of what content are they going to need to work on, because some of these things obviously I can't do myself. Then we just aligned on a general UX structure, and we talked about what each page would have. So the home page, about page, services, you get the picture. Then visual direction. In my experience, always important early on to get a sense of what they like from a design perspective, both what they like and what they don't like. This way I have a general idea in my head of what the design is going to need to be. And then this way I'm not working on one idea later on that I think looks great, but then the client just had no interest in that certain design style. So we looked at a couple examples, very helpful. Then we conclude with questions, and then next steps I break down what we're going to need to do. Then it's on to the design phase. Like I said, part of the project here was aligning on what avatars we were going to have. So first of all, I explained to the client what exactly, how the website kind of plays into the entire value journey, you could say. This is from Digital Marketer, in terms of a prospect first becoming aware of the brand, which is primarily going to be on Instagram and social media in this case, then eventually engaging with the brand on the website, then converting that prospective client or customer into someone who's actually going to go on a rock climb and is now paying money to the business. But then also, how can we get them to advocate for the brand through our marketing? That's going to be, in this case, leaving a positive Google My Business review. The client was able to generate over 100 5-star reviews on Google My Business, which is absolutely crazy and goes to show what an awesome job that this client really does do out in the field. And then finally, we talk about how can they get them to even promote the business to their friends, family, and personal network. So social media posts, maybe a referral system down the line. Those were all things we were talking about at the time. So hopefully you can see here, it's not ever about just building the website. It's about building an entire marketing system out for the clients. The website is just one part of that system, but I would argue it's essentially the foundation where everything is going to revolve around and get built upon over time. So here you can see I help the client really narrow in the terms of the client's avatars here. So this was all going to inform the copywriting strategy later on. Then we go into the UX wireframe design process here. So basically the client's able to get a high level blueprint overview of what every single page is going to look like. And in this case, it's going to be the content and layout structure, and then ultimately the copy. Now, this was before I was on the Rayloom bandwagon, so to speak. So I was using a different UI kit here to create these. It was called System Flow. It was good at the time, but then the developer ended up just not supporting it after I paid a couple $100s, which was a bummer, not gonna lie. But at the time, it definitely served its job. So you can see here, the client was able to see exactly what all the key pages were going to look like, and then be able to influence the content and copy direction accordingly. For example, he could see that we have testimonials on the homepage, but maybe if he thinks testimonials should be on the about page, he could say that here as well. This is helpful because as we go into the next UI wireframe step here, and you'll see these are the initial designs. Things did change with the homepage though, as you can already see based on the start of the video. But this is important because we want to align in the UX phase on what the content and copy is going to be for each page. And then this way, when we go to the next phase, UI design or user interface design, essentially this is where we're providing real life mock-ups of what the website is going to look like before development starts. This way the client is able to provide a lot more design direction, and we're able to implement that much faster. It's important here though to start with the UX wireframes, because we don't want to, in this UI step, be wondering what content is even on the page to begin with. So in the UX step, we are focused on getting the exact right type of content on the website. And then in the UI step, we are just focused on designing that content, so to speak. So you can see here, it's a bit of a messy design file. This is not what I obviously presented to the client. This is what I was working in on my own time. But you can see here, this was the design we ended up going with. So I really like these like slanted headers. Not sure where I even got the idea for. I'm sure people have seen it in the past, but it's not something I generally use on I think this is the only client, for example, where I've gone with this type of style consistently. And you can see it's even transparent in the background, but I just thought it looked cool. And the client had been using blue in the past. The old website was all like blue and gray and white backgrounds, but I added the orange accent just because I thought that added a much more of an exciting type of a feel to the website. And I thought, given the nature of what we're doing here, rock, alpine, and ice climbing, we can have fun with the brand, and it really should communicate fun, high energy, high octane type vibes, if you will. So that was the idea behind there. I also do think the orange and blue contrasted very nicely together. You got to be very careful in terms of the two blues. I wasn't trying to like recreate the New York Mets color scheme here. One, because I'm a Yankees fan, but two, because I thought it would look corny on the website. So I do think we did a good job of having very nice blues and oranges that contrast nicely, but don't also look corny or just cheap, quite frankly. So we did a very good job here. Fortunately, the client had always been taking photography with his iPhone out in the field, so we had lots of good images to work with. And while they were not professionally shot, eventually we would actually get some solid professional photos. Number one, the iPhone did totally fine. And this is an iPhone from 2 or 3 years ago, did totally fine for photography. And I actually think did a really good job considering the brand, because we were never trying to go for like this like super high-end bougie type, only like the top 1% could afford this, even though that would have been a viable segment to target in Boulder, where the average home price is well over $1 million. But we were going for something that was a bit more like homegrown, approachable, just fun, playful. So I think the iPhone photography actually really helped out in that, because it made, and I guess even subconsciously for the new people getting into rock climbing, it made it seem more approachable as well. One last thing to talk about here is that we did eventually add these mega menus following the same design process. So as you can see here, the UX to the UI, and we'll talk about this in a second, we'll look at it. But basically we eventually worked to add these course pages, and instead of having them buried in just like a generic looking drop down menu, we went with this mega menu type design. And then with Webflow, you're able to custom design all of these. So that was what we were doing here. All right, so as you're watching this video, if you're thinking to yourself, man, our company could really benefit from a brand new revamped website that looks as sleek as the website you're looking at today, and quite frankly, you know it if you do, then I invite you to schedule a complimentary strategy call with myself. There is a link in the description of the video. There is a cool interactive video form that takes about 5 minutes to fill out, but gives me all the essential information I need on our project to ensure that we would be a good fit to work together, and that setting up a call would be worth both of our times. And also, if you are qualified after filling out that form, you will be invited automatically to schedule that meeting directly on my calendar. So just to be clear, this is not going to be some sort of sales presentation. Do not worry. It is just a genuine conversation. I will take the time to learn more about your company's background, the competitive landscape, what your marketing and sales goals are. And based on all of that, I will help you outline a branding, web design and development, and ongoing marketing game plan so you can grow your company's brand awareness online, generate more leads, and of course, ultimately increase revenue. So again, if that sounds interesting to you, definitely fill out the form, get on a call with me, and I will help you achieve your marketing goals. Link in the description. Without further ado, let's get back into the video. Let's go on to the actual website and you can see yourself what it looks like. Like I said, we've since revised this. This is now the home page. You can see we have some really awesome videography, as you can see here. Pretty sure the client just took this with his iPhone and he sent me the video file. We eventually added this, as you can see here. So very cool. We also do have this video ask widget. I've done videos on this in the past. Basically, it's a way to make a really cool interactive video form. And I am definitely a big fan of these because right away, as you can see here, people can get a face-to-face impression of the actual owner and probably the person who's going to be guiding the climb. I do believe now that they have other climbing course instructors, but yeah. And then this is a fantastic video, as you can see here. The client has one of those like gimbals or something like that, the GoPros, where they're able to shoot it from overhead like that. So then we have an about section, and we also have a video as well that will play. This is like an about overview. Always a big fan. Whenever you can have video, do so. We then have some quick fast facts here so they can see it's an AMGA accredited business. Basically, that's like the gold standard in the industry. This is very important because like safety needs to be a top concern. For example, my mom would hate the idea of me ever going rock climbing. It's just something, I guess, for family members or friends who might be worried about it. If you just say that the business has accreditation, this is huge for social and safety proof in this case. Then we talk about the fact that we can provide customized goals as well as having the expertise and experience necessary to actually provide good instruction. Then we get on to the actual climbing service provided, so rock climbing, alpine climbing, and ice climbing. And then note we have these video cards, which I think came out fantastic. And this really, I think, makes people want to actually get up off the couch and actually book a climb. It's not just static photography, which most of the competitor websites were utilizing. Then we have some featured courses, which will be switched out based on the season. Then here we call out exactly, hey, we can help you both if you're a novice/new climber as well as if you're an expert climber. Then we have a bunch of testimonials and a slider-like design. Then we have some FAQs as well, and then we have a cool CTA section featuring the owner. Then let's get onto the main service pages. So as I was saying here, these are the mega menus we ended up creating. So we have one for the rock discipline, the alpine discipline, and the ice discipline. Each one has their own main service page. So you can click into there and get more information on here. This is the alpine climbing one. As you can see here, we have more information. These service pages were really designed with SEO in mind. So you can see here, we have a ton of information, a ton of copy. We have bullet point lists of the different things people can learn. We have slideshows as well for people to see what it's gonna be like when they actually go on this climb. Then we have the different courses as well. We'll talk about that in 1 second here. People can click into any of these courses. You can see we have a cool hover effect. We have information on the main guide. Now we have a specific section here targeting both beginner climbers and what they can expect, as well as experienced climbers, testimonials. It goes on and on. These pages were like money for SEO, let's put it that way. And then we even highlight what an actual day looks like. So here's like the itinerary essentially. 10 to 14 hours of physical activity. It is not for the faint of heart. And generally for these alpine climbs in particular, you got to wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning and then you're out in the mountains all day. And then we have here where they can expect to climb. We have some pricing information. We have some FAQs. Yeah, they're pretty robust. So then we have the rock. So let's look at the mega menus again. These are all the different courses. For example, say someone wants to go rock climbing for the first time. We have this intro to rock climbing course. Again, we're going with this slanted, transparent, diagonal type design. We then have a quick course overview, quick info on the left-hand side, and then we have a gallery section for people to just look at some photos as well in terms of what it's going to look like. We have information on the actual guide. This is the online booking section. So now they have all the details about this specific course. Then they can click in any day or time, and then they can choose, oh, maybe me and my friend are gonna go, and then we can move forward with booking it now. And then they get this cool booking widget that is powered by Origin. So that's how that works. And then this is all the other kind of like waiver info as well. So you can see very robust, but people can pay online directly, which is fantastic. We even have some FAQs as well. We have some testimonials. We have other courses in case they want to explore what else is offered. And then that is the page. But the key thing here to talk about is the fact that in Webflow, this is actually managed by the CMS. So right now, the client, we are not working together any longer. The engagement just ran its course, but we're still on good terms. But the client now has the ability, even though he does not have any web development expertise, he's able to use the Webflow CMS to update and edit these pages and add new ones. So this is one of the great things about Webflow is the fact that I'm able to build out these custom CMS collection pages, and then the clients, even if they don't have technical expertise, they're able to continue on managing the website so they can really leverage it as a marketing tool. And then as part of this, once we were done building this out, I also sent the client over a screen recording tutorial. So now anytime he ever needs to reference that or has a question, he can look at that video I made and get all the questions answered. And that way he's able to manage it better himself. So that's pretty much it. Let's also go over these venue pages. So as you can see here, we built out these different venues where the client regularly provides guiding services. So if we look at Rocky Mountain National Park, for example, it's a quick overview of what people can expect. You have some photography, more information, and then the different types of climbing activities at Rocky Mountain National Park. So rock climbing, ice climbing, alpine climbing, etc. And then all the different courses. And this is all connected via the Webflow CMS. So basically the venue pages are created via the Webflow CMS, and then each of these courses has tags for where they're actually being able to guide it. So this is how they show up on these venue pages. Then we also have a blog as well. So I helped the client build out a blog post system here. I'm not sure really that they keep this regularly updated, but we did have a really good blog going when SEO and written content was doing well. But these days I would say SEO is on its last legs essentially. And then we just have a very normal looking contact page. And then people can also book a custom trip here in any of the disciplines if they would like. So that's the case study here. I hope you enjoyed it and got a lot of value out of it. This was mainly focused on the website development work we did in Webflow. I didn't go into too much details about the marketing work because that's like a whole other beast. So maybe in the future I will do a case study on the specific marketing work we did. The marketing case studies, full transparency, are more work up front. Like I need to actually pull all the statistics and go over that. Whereas with these web design case studies, I can just riff as I mostly did here. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, and let me know if you have any questions in the comments and I would be happy to get back to you. If you're looking to build a high performing Webflow website with fantastic design as you see here, definitely feel free to reach out to myself. Would love to have a conversation with you, get to know a little bit more about your company and your marketing and sales goals, and based on everything you tell me, I'll help you outline a game plan to achieve that. So there's a video form, it takes about 5 minutes to fill out, but gives me all the essential information on your project. And if you're a good fit and you're qualified, you'll be able to book a meeting with me directly on my calendar. So that's it for me in this video. Hope you liked it. Definitely subscribe to the channel if you're interested in this type of content. And without further ado, I'll see you in the next one. Thank you very much for watching. I don't take it lightly. See you in the next one. Bye.